I began working on my gallery exhibition Awaken in, I think, probably around April 2018. The show itself happened in April 2019, but the first sketches that you see here in the sketchbook were probably around April 2018 then. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do yet. You can see here's the beginnings of some dragonflies and this figure that's hidden among flowers. This one with another figure coming down and dragonflies underneath. It started with the theme for the show started with a literal sense of the word awaken, because the first few pieces came about as a result of me not being able to fall asleep at night. So it was this insomnia, and it evolved into this sense of empowerment when ignoring the shackles of daylight propriety. And dragonflies featured in several of the pieces because dragonflies are creatures that exist in two worlds, as they were born in water and they live their mature life in the air. And this was sort of what I was trying to get at with these first few thumbnail sketches, where I had this figure that I had in mind that she was actually underwater or existing partially underwater with the water level, right about here. And these lilies growing up into the air around her. And then there was this one with the dragonflies in a longer, thin piece. This was me thinking also at this very early stage about how I wanted my laser cut frames to work out. So this was designing the shapes that I was going to use, and I thought of actually maybe having some little dragonfly laser cut pieces flying off the frame into the wall surrounding area. This is still an idea that I'm playing around for with some future shows, but I haven't yet had a chance to do it yet. I would love to do some kind of more installation style piece like that. This was another one where I had that idea of dragonflies converging around this darkness in the center, and these were going to be little dragonflies in the wall, just part of an installation type of setting. This was the first sketch for a piece that eventually became Aspiration. That was the title of that one. So in many mythologies, dragonflies are seen as these beings that walk between worlds. I also started doodling around with some jewelry ideas. That's what these guys are right here. This was when I was doing the not laser cut, it's actually metal etched in acid is how they create this filigree that I was turning into jewelry with dragonfly wings. But there's this piece as well that had the dragonfly. This is what eventually became the painting Convergence. And it featured both dragonflies and foxes. Foxes are another favorite of mine because, like dragonflies in many mythologies, foxes exist as these creatures that are both in the spirit and physical realm. They are tricksters, and so they are these go-betweens for gods and humans. Or in the case of the pieces of Awaken, go-betweens between the conscious and the subconscious, and our ability to throw off the concepts of what we should be and just be. And here were some of the initial designs for the frames. So this right here is the very loose thumbnail of the Convergence piece. And these were some flanking paintings that I wanted to have. So I had this idea at this early stage in mind of a large central painting and these smaller ones that were forming this flow against the wall in how they were arranged, and the pieces sort of went one into the other. These were some smaller paintings that would flank the original one, the original larger piece. Here's some of the sketches that went into becoming those flanking pieces. There's one right there, and this one as well. And you see, these thumbnails are very small and scribbly. It's about 2 inches big. That's what this is. Mainly what I want to do when I'm doing thumbnail sketches is just to get the idea out of my head and onto paper. Because once I have it here, I have something that I can reference and go to in my future evolution and design of the paintings. And this is a little thumbnail that became the painting Gate, The Gate, I believe. And here's one that I'm still playing with the idea of maybe making that one into a painting eventually, but it is this little girl and she's painting cranes, painting birds, and they are flying off her page and into the area surrounding her. And this actually was sort of a segue into my next themed show, which was called Conjure, in which many of the figures in Conjure, they are empowered and they're using what's within them to create the reality around them. And that's kind of what this was, the very first inkling of a concept for. Actually, I guess it isn't the first. It is a concept that I play with in many of my paintings, especially the ones where you see that the tattoos on my figures and the tattoos are flowing off of their bodies. That's so the metamorphosis of concept and idea from within the artist or the creator or the person who's experiencing something, and how that metamorphosizes into something that is physical and tangible in the world. These were some of the final pieces that I did for the Awaken series, and they were a little bit more on the abstract side of things. There was a portion of the pieces that was very rendered and representational, but also a lot of texture in the background. And these spirals diving down from the birds. So this was the very first concept, but in the final piece, it actually became a bird at the bottom, and falling down or falling from it were these spirals extending outward with actual pearls that I embedded into the pieces and set with resin. And here, this was another sketch for that same concept, but neither of these compositions became the ultimate final piece. And there's a sketch for what was fairly accurate to the final piece. There's a tree in the center and a spiral that goes down into the pearl. The spirals were sort of the representation of the connection of these physical beings, these trees and the birds and the physical elements, into something that is more ineffable.